So let's do a brief overview of diabetic ketoacidosis first, and then we will dive into the step-by-step process. So DKA happens when there's not enough insulin in the body, right? So the cells are not getting the glucose that they need for energy, so they start converting fat into energy instead. And this fat breakdown leads to ketones, and these ketones build up in the blood, and these ketones are acids. So that's where it gets its name, diabetic keto, as in ketones, and acidosis, as in acids. So ketoacidosis. So that's just a brief overview of what's going on here. So DKA mostly happens during type 1 diabetes, but it can also happen during type 2 as well. So now let's really get into the nitty-gritty of the pathophysiology of diabetic ketoacidosis, or DKA for short. Alrighty, so step 1 of the pathophysiology of DKA is that there is not enough insulin. So normally in your body, your pancreas produces insulin, right? And insulin's job is to grab on to glucose and move it into the cells so that the cells can use them for energy. Pretty cool, right? I like to think of insulin as a door-to-door salesman, and that he's selling glucose. So Mr. Insulin goes around the neighborhood and knocks on everybody's door of all the body cells, asking if they want to buy his glucose. So normally all of the cells want to buy the insulin's glucose because they're hungry for that energy. And let's be honest, who doesn't like sugar, right? So typically insulin gives away a lot of glucose. But here's the problem in diabetic ketoacidosis. Insulin didn't show up for work. So there's all of this glucose around, but Mr. Insulin is playing hooky. So there's no one to give that glucose to the cells. And now hyperglycemia occurs, which is step 2 of DKA. This hyperglycemia because there isn't any insulin to move glucose into the cells. So that glucose just builds up and builds up and builds up in the blood. So the cells are there, they're really wanting their glucose, but Mr. Insulin isn't around to give it to them. But thankfully, they have some stored up fat to use for energy. And this is step number 3 of DKA, that the cells use fat for energy. And when fat is converted into energy, ketones are produced, which are acids. So this is step number 4. Ketones are produced as a byproduct of fat metabolism. And now this leads to step number 5, which is acidosis. The more the ketone levels rise in the body, the more the acid levels rise in the body, because ketones, of course, are acids. And so the more ketones there are, the more serious the acidosis becomes. Okie dokie, so those are the 5 steps of diabetic ketoacidosis. Step 1, there is not enough insulin. Step 2, the blood glucose levels rise in the body, causing hyperglycemia, because there is just not enough insulin to push all of the glucose into the cells. Now step 3, the cells use up fat for energy instead of glucose. Step 4, ketones are produced as a byproduct of that fat metabolism. And step 5, acidosis occurs. The more these ketones build up in the blood, because ketones are acids.